Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to mainly look at budget-friendly, mint-on-card, vintage Star Wars figures. Not all of these are gradable, all right? And a lot of you don't collect graded stuff, and you just like to have carded figures, sliding acrylic cases, however you want to display them. And the vast majority of these that I'm going to show are like that, okay? So budget-friendly options, mainly auctions. And, you know, just there's some issues with some of these, but at least it gives you an idea of what the low end of the market looks like for vintage carded packaged figures. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. They allow this channel to be what it is today. Patreon.com/actionfiguregrader is where you can go to sign up. All right, so first we've got a 79 back Darth Vader. At first blush, it looks really nice. It, you know, obviously has the yellowed blister. Unpunched, no price sticker. I think the reason this thing sold so cheap is mainly the top of the blister. The top of the blister that you can see right there has some obvious creasing to it. Back of the card looked pretty good. Had that Anakin offer. But that one, you know, with between the yellowing and the top of the blister having some kind of waviness to it, that kept the price down, $207.50. Even yellowed blister Vaders, if there's no cracks to the blister, they can go very expensive, especially if there's no flaws to them. I very regularly see $300-400 for a yellowed blister Return of the Jedi Darth Vader. So $207.50 is a pretty good deal for about a 70-75 grade, somewhere in that ballpark. Next up was a Chewbacca that was on a 20 back, and this one, you know, had the waffle pattern. Everything looked pretty good about it. It did have some issues to it. It was not perfect, but I was surprised it went this cheap, to be honest with you. I don't know if it just fell underneath the radar. You can see an obvious crease right there on the left-hand side of the blister. The back of the card looked pretty good. It did have a tear on the top of the hang tab. That's probably the other main reason why, you know, the price went for what it did. But still, this is a perfect example of how I started off this video. Put this in a sliding acrylic case, and this presents very nicely. It certainly presents a lot nicer than $361. So I thought that was a pretty good deal, even despite that flaw on the left-hand side as well as on the back of the card back near the hang tab. Here's another one where I was a little surprised it went this high. This was an AFA 60 12-back C Luke Farm Boy. And, you know, obviously it had a pretty major crease on the top left-hand side along with a litho tear. So that's why it got the 60 grade overall. Archival case, card got a 50, blister 70, figure 80. So really it's because of that crease and the litho damage that it got the overall 60 grade. $840 though. So that just shows you that even in low grade, clear blister, early 12 backs for Luke Farm Boys, you're going to pay a lot of money. And, you know, I don't think this really benefited from being graded necessarily, but maybe it did because it shows that there was no ink touch-up or it wasn't resealed, things like that. But $840 was the final winning bid on that Taiwan Luke Farm Boy, dark pants. And this seller had a number of higher grade items that sold at auction. And I think we covered these in my What to Buy video a couple weeks back. So first is a Kenner Canada Princess Leia Inner Combat Poncho, AFA 85. Again, the Canadian card back, yellowed blister, unpunched, no price sticker. And that one sold for $241.88. And you can see a little bit of scuffing on the top left of the card back. So I'm a little bit questioning why it got the 80 grade overall with the obvious litho wear there. But that's what they gave it. I mean, I probably would have given this an 80 or an 80 plus overall. And that's probably, you know, I think maybe the market agreed with me is that, hey, this might be a little overgraded just given the scuffing and the litho damage in the top left corner on the front of the card back. This is the one I really wanted. Okay, so this one is one I still need for my Boss collection. I'm trying not to spend any more money, but this was an AFA 80 48 back B Revenge of the Jedi offer for Boss. And clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker. I thought that went for a song and a dance. If you remember, Hakes had one that was ungraded that ended up selling for more than what this one sold for, already graded AFA 80. So, little surprising that this one went so cheap, although you got to factor in the shipping costs of $82 from the UK back to here. But still, I think my bid was around $675, or that's what it sold for. Again, that was ungraded with some check marks on the back of the card back. This was AFA 80. And, you know, that to me was a steal of a deal. Congrats if you happen to get it. It had 285 sub scores. Probably should have been on it. Probably going to be kicking myself when I pay like $300 or $400 more than what this one sold for whenever I pull the trigger on one. But congrats whoever got that. That was a really good deal there. And then here was the other one that this same seller had. This was a 12-back C Sand People, and it was an AFA 80, price sticker, punched example, card 75, blister 85, figure 85. So 285 sub scores. Figure was very clean, although it looks like it had a little staining going on the cape there. So I take that back. It did have a little staining on the cape, and that's probably what kept the price down to $666. So that figure score of 85 really doesn't apply anymore. It's probably more like a 75 for the figure score. Card 75, blister 85 probably gets dinged back down to a 75 plus or a 75 if this was regraded today, and probably, again, why it sold for $666 for a 12-back C AFA 80. Next up was another Sand People. There's a bunch of Sand People in this lot. This one was an AFA 60, and this one was the Secret Star Wars action figure offer. So this is the transition card 21-back. Tougher to find these transition cards, clear blister, but only an AFA 60. And that one sold for $300.97. And then Jeff's Collectible Empire, Jeff Jacobs, he had this one relisted from a previous auction session. This one was a yellowed blister AFA 75 41-back E, and that one sold for $260 and change. So that was a relister, probably from definitely from a non-paying buyer, but 75, 75, 80 were the sub scores on that one. And then here was a 12-back mock, but before you get too excited on that sales price, this one did have a cut blister. But again, the premise of this video is to show you maybe some more affordable options. And this is a good example of one where you could probably put this in a sliding acrylic case and would certainly suffice if you're doing a budget-friendly run of 12-backs. But there's that Sand People cut blister, $376.51 was the final winning price on that one. The rest of this seller's items were all mint on card. And first was a 45-back clear blister Ugnaught. That one sold for $140.50. It did have some damage on the right-hand side of the card back. So again, not probably an item I would grade, but certainly one to put in a sliding acrylic case. The back of the card looked clean, no shaved pop or anything like that. It was just some card damage on the right-hand side of the card. A very tough one to find for Dengar is the 47-back free Forlom offer. And this particular character card back combination is a very tough one to find. Obviously, it had a lot of wear to the blister, big ding on there. And we talk about that all the time with Dengar. Very tough to find clean Dengar ESBs just because they were peg warmers. And no respect for Dengar. But this one was punched example, 2 price stickers, big crease in the upper left-hand corner, and then obviously damage to the blister. $152.50 on that yellowed blister, 47-back. Another 47-back was this yellowed blister Rebel Commander. A little bit better shape, it looks like, overall. But, you know, it was yellowed blister for a fairly common figure. $121.50 on that one. And then another 47-back with some damage was this FX7. That one obviously went for more. It seems like FX7s on ESB card backs, even in kind of poor condition like this one, where you have some creasing by the top of the card, yellowed blister, it still sold for $237.50. Clear blister FX7s on ESB card backs, it really doesn't matter what ESB card back it is. If it's clear blister in really good shape, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. It's just one of those tough ones to find. Next up was a 45-back Star Wars Display Arena offer for the AT-AT driver. Heavy crease at the top of the blister on this one. That one sold for $247.50. There's the back. Back of the card looked good. It just had a big heavy crease at the very top of the blister. But again, it's an AT-AT driver. Good budget-friendly option for those of you collecting on a budget right now. Here was a 47-back Han Solo yellowed blister punched example with the price sticker. That one still went for quite a bit of money because it is one of the main heroes, despite the big crease at the top of the blister there. $380 was the final winning bid on that one. Next up, this one I think I had in my what to buy video. I thought this was a great deal. This was a 77-back A clear blister Bespin security guard, and this one had the coin offer. Card 80, blister 75, figure 80, and it, you know, maybe it's starting to yellow. It's hard to tell from the shading and the kind of the shadows in the photos. At first blush, to me, it looks like a clear blister, and it is partially unpunched. Again, with that coin offer, tough to find those coin offers sometimes. $172.50. That is a great deal. Great deal if you happen to pick up that one. I thought that was a really good deal there. And again, I'm not saying it's definitely a clear blister, but at first blush, to me, it looks clear blister. Very straight, clean card. Again, the punch is still in there, even though it's kind of hanging at the top of the hang tab there. But that's a really good deal. Sub $200. Clear blister, already graded for a harder to find coin offer. Next up was that Yoda, and again, this is that made in Mexico for the U.S. market. So this one has a Lili Ledy Yoda inside. Clear blister. It's not perfect, right? It's got a ding on the top of the blister, some creases at the top of the card, but that's a tough combination to find. In better condition, these all day long sell for $800 or more. This one sold for $400 in an auction. I thought that was a really good deal for, you know, again, it probably at best it grades a 70 plus, maybe 75 if you're lucky. Heavy, you know, denting on the right-hand side of the blister. But again, we're talking about a mint-on card Lili Ledy figure. Really good deal there. And for those of you curious, here's the back of the card. It's a little bit of a faded card back. It's kind of like a matte finish to the back. And then in the lower left-hand corner, it says Made in Mexico. And they also do typically have a little hole punch by where the figure sits on the blister. But this one is missing it, which does happen sometimes. It also does have a faint crease, probably where that blister was attached to the card. That factory stamp probably caused it to crease a little bit. So I would guess this one maybe gets a 70 plus, maybe if you're lucky a 75, but probably a 70 plus. And for $400, again, that's a really good deal given that, you know, Returno, this would be a Returno, no, I'm sorry, a Regresso. This is a Regresso Lili Ledy. And those loose, complete, ungraded can go for $350. So $400 mint on card. That's a really good deal. Next up was a buy it now for an unpunched Last 17 Imperial Dignitary. And this was on the, obviously, the Palitoy Tri logo. No £1.59 price sticker. And the blister looks like it's in pretty good shape there. So that one was listed for $250. I think this has got a really good chance at an 80 grade. It's a very clean looking card back. Again, unpunched. $250 free shipping. I was going to send this out to my Patreon supporters in a what to buy, in a kind of a buy it now alert, but it sold before I even had a chance to send it out. So I thought that was a really good deal. And then speaking of Tri logos, here is a CAS 85 Plus that was relisted, probably again for a non-paying eBay buyer, because this seller very regularly sells on eBay, and I bought from this seller before. But it had the blister support, really clean example of Nikto on the Palitoy Tri logo, and that one sold for $244.50. I thought that was a really good deal. Straight 85s for the subscores. Awesome deal at $244.50. And then finally, we've got two expensive items. First is an AFA 75 Plus for the Biker Scout on the Power of the Force card back. That one sold in a buy it now for 1,095 Canadian dollars, which is about 800 US dollars. And then here's a close-up. It had a card 75, blister 80, figure 80 for an overall 75 plus, very lightly yellowed blister. That's a really pretty Biker Scout. That's a tough character to find on the Power of the Force card back. Punched example with the Toys R Us price sticker, 795 US dollars. The final one is another one that is definitely not budget friendly, and here it is. This is that AFA 80 plus Luke Skywalker in his Stormtrooper disguise, unpunched, no price sticker, moderate yellowing, but it's an AFA 80 plus. 80, 85, 80 were the subscores on that one. That one was a beauty. And this one sold in an auction for $1,426, which I would argue that's probably about market, to be fair. I mean, we've seen some AFA 85s in the same condition, unpunched, no price sticker, that sold recently on Hakes. It wasn't the last session. It might have been the session before that, but it was around $1,800 if memory serves. So $1,426 for an AFA 80 plus. Great looking card back and character combination, and you know, obviously the grade speaks for itself, so I can understand why somebody was willing to pay that price. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at mainly budget friendly mint on card vintage Star Wars figures. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.